More FPL. Today I want to go over my latest draft, explaining the overall structure and the reasons behind particular players I've picked, as well as alternatives and things that could change. I won't go into too much detail about players that haven't changed since my initial draft. If you'd like to hear more about these, then see my previous video. So let's start with my goalkeepers. These haven't changed since my initial draft, so that's Robert Sanchez of Brighton and Ben Foster of Watford. Brighton have a kind opening run of fixtures, and their expected data from last season was better than their actual data. Brighton have signed Kajel Sherp, but Sanchez should still be number one. If not, Daniel Bachmann of Watford would be my second choice. I'll play Sanchez every week, so Foster could be any 4 million keeper. Now let's turn to my defence. My first pick is Trent Alexander-Arnold, who hasn't changed since my initial draft. Liverpool have great fixtures to start, and he should get more clean sheets this season with Van Dijk's return, and they've also strengthened with Konate. My next pick is Andrew Robertson, who is new to this draft. I've played around with a few different formations, and I've settled on 4-3-3, which is the same as my initial draft, but with more money spent in defence. With Liverpool's fixtures being so good to start, I feel a triple up will be a great strategy early on. I'm unsure of how many minutes Diogo Jota will get at 7.5 million, and Sadio Mane at 12 million is just not good value, which is why I'm looking to go for double defence, in addition to Salah, who we'll discuss later. Also, even though there are good midfield options around Robertson's price, if I wanted to go with a more traditional 3-4-3, such as Rafinha, Ward-Prowse and Maddison, their opening fixtures just aren't as good. My next pick is Luke Shaw, who hasn't changed from my initial draft. Along with Liverpool, Man United have the best fixtures to start of the premium teams. His form at the Euros makes him even more secure in my team, and despite England reaching the final, I think he will start the season, though I'll be checking pre-season minutes with interest. My next pick is Lucas Digne, who is new to this draft. Much of my initial draft is heavily influenced by fixtures, and this pick is no exception. Everton have one of the kindest starts, and new manager Rafael Benitez tends to have a strong start with clubs where he's had a full pre-season to work with the team, rather than joining mid-season. He also has a reputation for being a good defensive coach, so I'm expecting some early clean sheets, coupled with Digne's attacking threat. Last in my defence is Javier Manquillo of Newcastle, who is also new to my draft, but a much less exciting pick. I could only afford a 4 million defender in this slot, and there are currently no options that will get regular starts for their teams that I'm aware of. There are rumours that Brandon Williams of Man United may be loaned to Southampton, and with Ryan Bertrand having signed for Leicester, this could be one to keep an eye on. Manquillo would be third on my bench every week. Ideally, I'd like to find 0.5 million to be able to upgrade to a 4.5 million defender for my bench, as there's so many good options such as Tariq Lamptey, Luke Ayling and Wesley Fofana. But as yet, I've been unable to find the money, so hopefully a playing 4 million option emerges. Now let's turn to my midfield. The first two players still haven't left my draft at all since the game launched, and that is Mo Salah of Liverpool and Bruno Fernandes of Man United. As mentioned previously, the fixtures are great and these two give good captaincy option each week. Salah alone gives you a good option most weeks, so he's probably marginally more nailed. I can't see myself being without these two come game week 1. I think the only thing that could change this would be if Harry Kane went to Man City, in which case Bruno may be sacrificed. Next in midfield is Emiliano Buendia of Aston Villa, who is new to this draft. Villa have a great opening 3 fixtures that I'm looking to take advantage of to make a strong start. Buendia got 15 goals and 16 assists in the Championship last season with Norwich, meaning he was third for goal involvement overall. He didn't have an amazing points return in his last season in the Premier League with Norwich in 1920, but he created a lot of chances for his teammates, so this was largely down to poor finishing. Villa have better players than that Norwich team. He should be nailed on to start regardless of the future of Jack Grealish. The final 2 midfielders in my squad are purely bench options to come in if one of my first 11 don't play. I still have Josh Brownhill of Burnley, but I've also brought in Billy Gilmore of Norwich instead of Oriol Romeo of Southampton. I think Gilmour will probably play slightly more minutes, maybe have slightly more attacking threat, and less likelihood of bookings. I don't really see any good options at 5 million that it's worth finding the extra to upgrade my bench for. A Milner throw of Arsenal at 5.5 million does interest me, but they do play Chelsea and Man City in their first three, so he's a wait and see. As mentioned previously, I've chosen to go Robertson rather than another mid-priced midfielder. Now let's turn to my attack. My first pick is Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who hasn't changed from my initial draft. As mentioned before, the early fixtures are good, and even though Benitez is seen as quite a defensive manager, in his last season in the Premier League with Newcastle, Salomon Rondon and Ayoze Perez both reached double figures, and I think Calvert-Lewin is better than them both. Ollie Watkins also hasn't changed from my initial draft. I mentioned Aston Villa's strong first three fixtures earlier, so I want to double up to take full advantage of this. With Grealish in the team, he was on the end of most chances Villa created, and having also signed Buendia, Watkins should get even more opportunities to score. My last striker spot goes to Ivan Toney at Brentford, who is new to this draft. He got 33 goals and 10 assists in the Championship last season, so was top for goal involvement overall. He is Brentford's talisman, and the Bees are expected to continue in an attacking style in the Premier League. They also have a good first 5 fixtures before their schedule toughens up a bit. Ideally, I'd like another 7.5 million option like Antonio, Iheanacho, Wilson or Jimenez, but I'm very happy with the rest of my squad right now. I do think Toney won't be too far off their totals at the beginning of the season. Another option would be to add a 6.5 million option in midfield, but as mentioned previously, I don't like the fixtures of any options here. Now let's talk about my overall strategy and captaincy plans. This team would mean I go into game week 1 playing a 4-3-3 formation with either Gilmour or Brownhill as first sub. I would hope to not have to use subs at all, since they will most likely only get 2 or 3 points each. My sub goalkeeper and defender are non-playing backups currently, unless playing options become available. My captain each week would be Salah or Bruno, and most often Salah. I'm pretty well set up for the early part of the season, and particularly for the first few game weeks, where barring injuries, I can use my transfers to jump on early bandwagons. After a few weeks, I can decide what to do with Buendia and Watkins in particular, and Toney from game week 6. I do tend to wildcard quite early, and will probably do so around the first or second international break, after game week 3 or 7. Around game week 7 is when fixtures start to turn for Man City and Chelsea, so this could be a useful time to wildcard if we want to make wholesale changes. Of course, there may be other transfers in and out that will affect my squad, but these are just my current thoughts. I'll be looking out for the price of Jadon Sancho in particular, who still hasn't been announced at the time of recording. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please add your own thoughts and follow-up questions in the comments, and I'll try to get through as many as I can. If you made it to the very end, please destroy the like and subscribe buttons and notification bell to get more FPL.